So I'm testing the wires and putting these in. I got the two headlight ones done. I got the bottom one on that side. That one, I realized that I bought these replacement things here with the separate things, and they're basically derived from GMs. The Fords have this because that's what lines it up. Because the notch doesn't work. The notch is on the inside, although it really doesn't seem to matter. Not seen per se. What do you call it? All right. Oh, there's a lot of green in there. I got to clean that first. But oh yeah, there is a little notch there. You know. It's tiny, but you know, once this thing goes in, first of all, it's in the back. It's it's parallel. So basically, once it goes in, it doesn't move. So however you wire it, you wire it. So I'm going to use these just to run the wire through, and I just use one part of this without the notch, which is the bottom part of the new one there, and then you put the new contacts in. So the contacts aren't really contacting the rusty part, and it's just used for a guide so they don't rotate in there, you know. And I mean, I suppose I can even leave out these things, but I think it does make it a little bit better and easier to guide. It really doesn't matter that they're rusty. It's not going to really make a difference. And one of the springs is no good, so I'm going to put this spring right over it. You know, and don't forget, no contacts are touching those corroded things there. So the spring is really doing all the work as far as holding the bulb right. And then these guys get pushed and they're insulated with this guy. That wasn't there before. It just basically had these two things sitting there, and they were fully energized. You know, they went right there because the spring was underneath each one. But this one will work. Should be fine. What's funny is what I noticed with the wiring issues with these cars. You know, I mean any old car for that matter. It's like it's pretty clean now. I don't know if it's a little hard to tell for some reason, but anyway, the other side looked like brand new, just like the this thing here. It looked brand new, and this is like completely opposite. And it's just like that. It's one way or the other. So like you can look at a car and like, oh, most of the wiring looks good, but there's a lot of fundamental stuff by the time you're done. It's like, oh boy, what a mess, you know. And it is what it is, you know. But like I said, this corrosion doesn't really matter. I'll probably just spray something on it or hit it with a wire brush real quick. But for the most part, I'm just using the thing, and it's just as a guide for the wires. Like I said, no contacts are hitting these things, so it's just going for a ride to make sure that it stays in alignment. That way, you know, the whole bulb doesn't move and everything, you know. But sucks that I wasn't able to use the whole thing, but for the most part I am. Contacts are important. They're good. Hey, puppy. So what I noticed is the contacts themselves, they're actually kind of long. So they, you know, when it gets all the way pushed in, it may kind of go in. So now what I'm doing, I'm putting heat shrink tubing around it. I think that'll take care of it for the most part. And that way, you know, once it goes on, it's insulated from it, and it prevents that spring. You know, probably best to leave these as rusty as possible. That way they don't make contact with the spring. Okay, I'm numb nuts. In the end, I put like I said, the heat shrink tubing on. Now it didn't go through the hole, so I just cut them off because it still has the holes. So ultimately, this one is normally the bottom one, but now it's the top one. You see on this one has a little notch, but that's for GM, and then you can reconfigure it, you know, whatever. So this is taking the place of the bottom one. So the holes are there. It ain't gonna waver from there, especially with the spring tension on it. So it's fine. It's not gonna be an issue. So ultimately, you know, this is gutted. Come on, phone. This is gutted on the spring. Okay. So we put the spring and we run these guys through there. Hopefully the heat shrink tubing goes through the this panel here, this little thingamajig. But I was like, yeah, I don't need to do that. I don't really need to. All right. So don't do what I do. Do as I say. Don't do as I do. No, don't even do what I say in this case. All right, time to use that on something else. Break open another one. Good thing there's a pack of 10. Live and learn. I think you get the idea of it now. Now that it's gutted, yeah, what I'm doing here is just taking off the bottom one, but in this case, I'm going to take off the bottom one, but now put it on the top, because like I said, this one has the notch, and the notch is going to get in the way because it's not meant for that. So put these guys. Hopefully my legs are holding the phone properly, because I'm not really looking at it. Taking a glance over every so often, but anyway, put this guy in there, and we put 1 and 2, and before we wire it, we check it to see which circuit is which, and we put the correct wire on. See, so basically, what you really want to do is put this guy, and just by just so somebody else doesn't have an issue. Although I wired that one, like I said, it was like brand new. The ones in the back look brand new as well, but I think I'm just going to gut them all and use it exactly like this. Therefore, if there's ever a problem down the road, somebody can do this without much hassle. I don't think it'll be too much of a hassle to do to this one if it ever had to be done, but like I said, it looked brand new. For 50 years old, it was like brand new. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I go, oh, yeah, I knew one of these was sucked up. So basically, you put this in the hole, and then you put the bulb in to hold it, because otherwise it just kind of falls out. So I cut that wire short and everything. So I'm going to put this through and set it up, and then I'm going to jump the bulb to see which one is which and make sure I have the right colored wire that corresponds to how I did this harness, and we'll make it work. Not too bad. Oops. I tested it. It works. It's still kind of drying. I epoxied a piece of vinyl tube, but before that, I wrapped each piece in heat shrink tubing with a very thick wall type, and I kept putting layers, and then I wrapped all 3, but then I put 3 separate connectors at different heights so the connectors don't bump into each other. And I kept putting different layers on here, and it's a little stiff here, but it saved it for the most part, so happy. All right, it's been rough with the weather and everything, but did a lot of work. I really didn't feel like filming it, but we're definitely getting there. I got this, this is a weird relay, like you can bolt it onto that, or you can bolt it there. So it has to go opposite though. So this thing is just kind of sitting out. I guess you could just put one of those small square ones too. I wired this guy because that will go inside, and when he puts it in park or neutral, I'm going to have a light probably light up on the dashboard for him. I rewired this, which I think I made a video for. It's probably included in this before. These things are kind of expensive. So I just took one from Amazon, got this guy to fit, put 2 clamps, got this guy to fit, and made it square. These guys need to be replaced, but they've been wrapped in duct tape. But this one is seized, the cable, and that's why something broke in the dashboard, which I got the replacement part. This one here appears to work, but, that thing is messed up. But you need the right clamps. You need a few things for that. I just wired all these, well, not all of them, but this is actually for a fuel pump that we don't have. This is if he wants to go fuel injection, or if there's some issue with the mechanical pump that is not feasible in this particular car. This is for the fan. This guy goes to this blue wire, which goes here. I ran all the wiring here. I got the wire just hooked onto the temperature sending unit. That's going to go like that. I'm going to have a separate wire for the AC. And I got the wires coming here for this and this. I'll probably put a little more wire loom. This wire loom came out to be a little bit long on the long side, or I probably should have put the tee off further down, but it's fine. It's not a huge deal. This is my contraption here. I put it in a lot of these old cars when I want to do something like this, whether 6 volt or 12 volt. Basically, that the original ignition switch is only good for like maybe 30 amps. So I have that switch on the inside actually turning on a small fuse box that I haven't used yet, but I plan to put the radio in it. Anyway, I'll get back to that. But this thing here, it just is a constant duty relay. So all the car's power is going through here. I have a couple of things on this side, obviously, that need power all the time. That goes directly to the battery. And then when you put the key in the on position, this turns on. And it jumps power to everything else. So it's like putting the key on, but you can put up to 200 amps through this. So right now I have the original, new ignition key. So that'll all, work like it should, and you won't even notice the difference because it'll go click and it'll turn on everything. I put hazard switch in here, and this is the that of the fuse box I was talking about. Because my problem was, if he wanted to just put the radio on, and he goes to accessory mode, if you don't really wire it like that separately, you'll basically backfeed that whole thing. So it's like having the ignition on and everything. And I don't know if that would blow a fuse or something like that, but in the end, I did it this way because it's just the radio. Because that would, it's something you want to listen to without having to put everything on. I got this guy all figured out. This brown wire I'm going to put in for the emergency brake. I'm going to find a way to make the light go on when you pull the emergency brake. I got to drop the tank again. And do the calibration for the gas gauge when everything's said and done. This is all in. It's much better now. I removed the bearing down here and just put this black thing here. And it wobbles a little bit, has a little bit of stress to it. But now I know it really needs to be welded on the money. And the thing is, if my friend machined it right, I would have not had a problem with that. I did it best I could by eye and thought I was doing it right, but apparently not. I have a 12 to 6 volt transducer somewhere that I'm going to install and put the power in the original blower switch so the original heat will work. The owner of the car has a 3D printer, and so he printed this little block here for me because I had a hard time trying to figure out where to go, and it's still like the contours are changing, and I didn't want to put it over here because it's too close to this handle, and over here it was going to end up where this is because it needs a flasher on the back of this, but ultimately this is a decent amount of room. You can still get to everything despite, maybe on camera it looks like Spaghetti Freddy, but I have everything that can be removed. I'm sure you saw in other videos. This is going to be the brake light. This is going to be this particular thing I just read now. It's a good thing I did it, but I wanted both anyway because not everybody is very in tune to looking at gauges. You have the volt gauge there, but when the light goes on and when you start it and it goes out, that's a great thing. I just didn't want them both red, So I was telling you about that of the yellow wire, and when I figure out I'm going to do something with this the shifter here. I finally got the shifter working kind of decent. It's really not the greatest, but I probably will have an opportunity to put I can't find it now, a little micro switch, and then I got this roll pin, which I had to drill everything out because it wasn't 1/4 inch and it wasn't 3/16. It was like 532s or 732s, I think. I can't find that, and so I drilled it out to 1/4, except for the very, very end of the hole here, and I hammered it in tight so it kind of binded, and then I'm hoping the micro switch hits this then, and then it can do what I want as far as reverse is concerned, and then the neutral will be picked up by that yellow wire that comes off that, because what I have set up, I have a neutral safety switch. You have a choice with these aftermarket things. You either use it for a neutral safety switch or use it for a reverse light switch, and I figured I can do something with that because I don't want to put a neutral safety switch on. I don't want to not put a neutral safety switch on is what I mean. So now that the starter relay is hooked up to the neutral safety switch, so that in park and neutral it'll come on. So I'll probably have a green N. I was not thinking about putting it here, but I don't know if you're going to really see it because this it's in line with this really, because this is where the rod used to be. So I'm not 100% sure. I may put it somewhere else. I may put that little mounting thing with a couple of lights in there, and I'll try to get something that says, you know, neutral. And you know, it's going to be the same light for neutral and park. You know, there's not really much you can do about it. So basically, you look at your shifter. If it's all the way up, you're in park, you know. So what else? And if he sees reverse, then he knows where drive is, you know. So reverse, neutral, because he was worried about not being able to tell where it is, because it really has no locking mechanism other than park. You know, when it goes park, it goes up. So, and even then, like if you pull it hard enough, you could probably force it, but you know, now that's reverse technically. And then everything else is kind of tight together, and it's very easy to skip a gear. And when you go park, it goes all the way back into park, you know. So not the best setup, to be honest. What else? I did put those reverse lights in. I don't have any other wiring. The wire there. I just have to wire everything in the rear, including the gas gauge and the. I haven't even looked at the guts for this license plate light, which is on the inside of the bumper here, right there. Not quite sure how I'm going to get them out, but apparently these two screws look accessible. I guess it drops out the bottom then, so I may have to use an impact driver or something like that. I doubt it's going to come out with 1, 2, 3. In fact, I should lube them up. Put some WD-40 on there. And little mistake, I made this 2 inches shorter than it should be. As you can see, this is overlapping like big time here, and it should be overlapping like this much. This is just a hook. The overlap, I'm not quite sure where it's happening in here, but it's like 2, maybe 2.5 inches. And I asked the owner, I'm like, do you notice something wrong with the steering column? And he's like, it looks so much further away from the dashboard. I'm like, good, because it's actually 2.5 inches closer. And you know, it don't look bad even with the steering wheel on, but you know, I think part of it is that when it's up here in your face, then you can do the wrenching hand over hand when you have manual, you know, manual steering. So that's an update. So it's looking good now that I swapped it. I got everything in. Oh wait a minute, I'm feeling it's blue wire. Okay, I think that's in. It's great to be testing this in the rain. Actually, everything fucking fit except for one wire out of this one guy here, and it's on the smaller one, of course. But it fits really well. Other than that, one wire. I'm not sure. It's fucking, of course, it's pouring now, and I wanted to do this before I left, just to see how it was, so I can give you feedback. But I have a feeling that once I press it in the thing, it could be okay, unless I can somehow swap it with the one that's next to it. If it seems to have more room. It's funny because I thought this is the one that didn't have a lot of wires, but they're all kind of thick wires, and that's in this one thing. I'll try to swap it. Just that blue wire now. Did I get it? I think I did. You know, it's like you want to kind of, I didn't get that one yet. It's like I go one way, I get one wire, and I go another way, I get another wire. If it was, see, I can't really drill it out now because I cut it. And, you know, that's part of the problem. But come on. I really wonder if I can make it. I don't know if that one is a small one or the big one now. It's like, seems like both of them wanted to be in a big one. It's amazing how much of a difference it makes. Damn it. It's very strong and very soft. I really like it. But maybe if we get 3 of them to be half-inch, and at the very least. I don't know. Maybe it'll be better in dry daylight, but oh well. So we got one done here. And you see what I did here? Bolted on 2 bolts there. 1 bolt with a bracket down there. I got this guy that's going to come across to a solid line that'll go through the metal here, and then I'll have another hose when I get. That's not the right angle. I got to get a 130-degree one, but I got a fan that I had to put it in there first. But you see the 2 slots, just like on a modern car where you have the slots on the bottom. That's what I did. I made these slots, and then I'm going to have 2 bolts right on the top that. I'm hoping, actually, no, it's not looking like they're easy. So I got to get nuts and bolts, actually, to make that happen. But other than that, this came out pretty good. I had to swap that around to put the nut on the coarse thread on this side of the stud and have the fine thread on that side and sticking out a lot more because it would have interfered over here. But it looks pretty killer. And I got the line bent with the receiver dryer on it. Of course, I got the wrong trinary switch. I put a rubber grommet through there. Looking good though. So I've used like 1 inch before, but this is a different material. It's like good for up to 250 degrees, but probably more. This is definitely way over that, like more than 280 or not 280 or something like that, 285. But this ended up being better because it went there, but I didn't even freaking check. It looked like 1 inch and it's really not, it's really not even 3/4 of an inch. So this should fit, even if it's not quite touching the radiator, which I think it will, once I bolt it all down, because this thing was way off, so it was more than 1/4 inch, so this should be just fine, and that'll really seal it nice. Pretty cool. Okay, one of these things are not the right size because this one said it was a 1/2 inch, that one said it was 1 inch. So when I put it 1 inch, it was like at least this much thickness that it was away. Like I couldn't even get close to bolting these on. So now this, it just seems like it's double thickness of this. So this is supposed to be 1/2 by 13, 1/2 by 3/4, and it's more like maybe 3/8 at best. So, I guess I'll double it up. This is shameful. It doesn't fit because of this piece right here. And the reason why I did that originally, because these lines I had over here, and then I decided to swap them because everything was going to be easier. The turn over here was going to be easier than down there. I was able to tighten the connection down there through the grill here. So that worked out well. But now I got to move that bracket to this side and only have a fan on that side. If they put an extra fan one day, it would be, just an extra fan, but it have to be a smaller fan. That's a bummer. Hate doing work and we have to undo it. Crap all up. Darn it. I took a live off of there. I just kept filing it with a hand file. I had no other way. So I think that should work now. Let's see. Maybe I can do this while being on video. Hang on a second. I think no matter what, I could be wrong. Yeah, just barely push this whole thing, which is basically how I got out those old horns. But I'm still up against it just a little bit, but yeah, it is flexing, but you know what? It's holding it in. It's like it doesn't even need bolts at this point. But it seems like, it doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue as far as fan hitting, but it's bellowed out here a little bit on this side, because this side is pushing, in. And I suppose bolting it together will help. It's either that, I just got to take off that corner a little bit more, both corners. Yeah. Oh well. So listen, this is the battery tray, and last year when I messed with this, there's just so many angles going on here that, and then also the factor is this thing here was mounted to it, but that part where it mounts to is rotted. But you see, I put this big giant bracket on here, and I secured it to the side, so the weight of the battery is being held up, mostly on this side, but then you have this guy holding this up. And yeah, this has holes in it, but I don't think it's terrible. And in order to do this, you have to kind of reinvent it. And that's why I think I was messing with it, and I ended up putting a lot of time into it nonetheless, and making it somewhat strong. That being said, how about we do this? How about you make a pad that's 7 inches here and 10 3/4 inches there, like a ½ inch, maybe only a 3/8 of an inch pad. Oh, 10 3/4. I don't know if you can do 10 3/4, but you could do 6. So at the length, I don't know. That would suck if you can't. That being said, maybe in 2 pieces, but yeah, 7 inches by 10 3/4 inches. And whether you want to try to make them interconnect or not, but I'd kind of like this kind of fast. Maybe 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick. It's probably all it needs, 1/4 inch. Just to give it something to sit on that is not going to be affected by any acid. That's why it doesn't rot out more. But again, the sides are bolted to the car, bolted to the front, and bolted to this, but this is not really bolted, so I gotta do something with that, which is right here. As you can see, I got your AC thing in. These are the rubber hoses that I put here, and I got a piece of rubber there. I got 2 pieces of rubber behind it to make it secure. I still gotta tighten these things up, but that goes like that. I gotta tighten that guy up right there, and he goes up and to there. And then I got this guy, which is a smaller hose. I was going to run it back and under, but it was too close to the exhaust. And I'm like, you know what? Simple is easy. So I did this. I ended up reversing this thing and make the hoses come on this side. So that skinny line is down there. That goes to that, And I had this piece, this 180 piece, and I made a rubber hose here. I supported it. I got the fan in. I had to grind this down, and I got the wires attached here. I made a little plate here, and I made another mounting bracket. And this is one solid line. I drilled a hole through here with a rubber thing, so that's you can move with the engine. Coming out really kick-ass. I originally was going to have the fan over here, but it was too much digging in, and it wasn't going to go. And this radiator, believe it or not, because it's Chinese made, it's actually is. Remember, we were looking at the radiator and saying it looked like it was off or the engine was off. It ends up being this is off, because everything when I bolted this together, everything kind of like tweaked, which is fine. I'm sure a lot of radiators are like that. They're not perfect, but in the end, it is what it is. But everything's coming out really good, and it's funny. This thing came with a binary switch. I didn't even realize it came with the binary switch, but the binary switch is not really what I wanted. I wanted a trinary switch. So I bought a trinary switch, and I go, oh, fuck, I got female threads. That thing is male threads, So I got a male thread one. So I got that in, and then I decided to look at the other one that had the female threads, because I'm looking at the back of the compressor, and I'm like, oh, look at this. That's interesting. They have these on here. And these are like old-style GM hoses. This is where you would fill the R12, low side, high side. The thing is, with GM, though, the high side is a smaller thread. So the one that I got fit on this side, but I can't have it there. I got to have it on this side, which is the high side. So now I was looking around, and I found a right trinary switch. So now it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of having to switch over there and running the wires all the way over here, for diagnosis purposes and everything, it's going to be right here and boom, right here. Like everything's going to be here. And I think that's a plus, to be honest. That really makes it much less chaotic with wires and whatever. But it's 4 wires actually that would go to it. But now it's just going to go right here. So I ordered the correct one, or the one I wanted now, and it's going to be kick-ass. It's really coming out really, really good. All right, it's probably 11 inches technically because of the ramp up. I really couldn't get the tape measure to tell, but I guess this battery might actually only be 10 and a half. There are some that are 10 and 3/4, and it sounded better, but I don't know how much bigger. Yeah, it's only about an inch to an inch and a half taller. I hope it's not going to hit the hood. So I think it's better to measure the battery. So the battery's 10 inches. It's not 10 and 3/4. So that's why there's definitely more room. And then this is 6 1/4 probably. Yeah, 6 1/4 by 10. So you can make something exactly 10, and then I could, you know, hot glue gun it to the corners even, you know, whatever. The depth, this one is definitely like 7 inches because I guess this guy is wider. This is like 6 3/4, where this is 6 1/4. So this is not, it's not going in as deep even, so it's not really a big deal. And I could probably put a piece of angle line here just to strengthen this in the front, a small piece. Even if it was made out of aluminum, it'll strengthen it. And I might even be able to do the same thing in the back now that I think about it, but just figured I'd throw that in. And this was really, really thin. There was nothing there, and I cut it to where at least it's doable. But now it's a relatively sizable hole, so, but it's not really that complicated of an angle. I think it'll be manageable, and I'll put the bolt holes where they're supposed to be. I might even just like weld 2 bolts or 2 studs so that I can just put nuts on it and not have to play with, because there might have been like this side, like the top ones here, these are, the nuts are welded to the body on the other side. Kind of thinking of the same thing, or I put studs going through, something like that. And at least it'll be strong, and if you cut out the rust, then it doesn't keep going. But you see there's actually pinholes here, you know. I mean, you can keep going and find shit, you know, but we're not going to keep doing that. A little bit of bad news. I remember pulling this, and it was feeling a little weak. If you remember, this came from the Turbo 400 tranny we got from the other guy, and we used a stick from it and the tube. But I must have grazed it, and it broke off, because I don't see it anywhere, to be honest, but I'm sure it's somewhere here. But that broke. It was weak to begin with, but it didn't survive the engine process here, so I don't know if I can make something. Maybe I can. If I can put a screw in the middle of that and somehow grab it a different way so it pulls out. I got to see if I get you an overflow tank that doesn't interfere with the battery but somehow stays here. And they have these hot rod ones that are like shaped like a cylinder, but a regular one might fit. It'd be much easier as far as function, because those other ones are kind of garbage. Not even quite sure how you fill them. I've always seen them, but I kind of utilized all this room on this side for all this shit. But then again, I mean, it's possible it could sit down low right there, but the problem is this thing is on this side, and it's not always a good thing to try to kink it going down. So, something to think about. I thought you had one that was stock that went under here. Not quite sure, but maybe it's here somewhere. I can't remember. Well, this was harder than it looked. Curling these edges. Using this tool for the first time that I just bought. And I got some metal pops riveted in there. And I'm going to put the rubber layer in there as well. I think it came out pretty good for what it is. Super frustrating when you have to redo your videos because you took a whole bunch and none of them came out in your phone. And you had to restart your phone. Anyway, so I made this, you can see, I made this little piece. I shaped it. Came out very well. I pop riveted it in because, you know, this metal is not, you know, like super duper sturdy either. I undercoated it. I'll probably throw some paint on it. I undercoated the underside of this as well. And I got 2 holes there. And what else? I made a plate with 2 bolts welded to it right here. So it's just extra metal I had. It's heavy duty metal. So I welded it, and I'm going to use that and put nuts, that way you put it through and you could really crank it down. It'll be tight. So came out pretty good. Almost forgot. So after that other thing, you can see that tile that I got from Harbor Freight. I cut it and shaped it and put it in here. Looks pretty cool. And in the car, it'll look very, very kind of hot rodish, I think. And it covers up a lot of the imperfections. And that's the thing that'll go inside there. And then you tighten the 2 bottom bolts, because there was no bottom bolts. Even though I had repaired that thing, in the end, I was like, oh, there's no, because I think I unbolted the bolt, and I thought it snapped off, or it did snap off, but I just got these 2 holes here. I don't know if I have to increase the size of the holes. I might have to go a step higher. I don't know. But these screws were still good, and that's it. Well, this was fun. Spent all this time trying to get these bolts out between the car and these 2. Only to find somebody did change his bulb at one time. Obviously, it's the 6-volt bulb, but they taped it all up. The wire is very frayed, and I guess they got it to work for the owner of the car. This thing here was chipped, but hopefully I can rebuild this somehow. It's pretty bad. I can't even bounce it to get the bulb out, so I guess they forced it in, kind of thing. Not quite sure what I'm going to do yet with this, but he needs a license plate bulb. Always reinventing something. Well, this didn't go well. It really took forever. I've been messing with this for a half hour. Like the bulbs coming out in chunks. I'm wondering if it is actually an old bulb and it was just well protected because it was, has that rubber seal. As you can tell, it's all bent up and, whatever. It looked more recent though. Yeah, the spring is still in there. Hang on a second. Come on. Let's try zooming in. Yeah, there's the spring. Still haven't gotten that part out. And this is probably not capable of a ground. I gotta see if I can fix this somehow. So I've just wasted hours trying to mess with this thing, but every time I mess with this, it just keeps breaking off. I was using, a small round file, and I kept, because one side, the thing was gone that holds the bulb, so I dug it out more, but then the original side that was big broke off too. And it's just like, it's getting weaker and weaker. And in the end, I'm going to AutoZone. They had this, literally a license plate light, and it says it fits 1.25 inch hole. I measured it, and I'm like, okay, that looks like it's going to work. And sure enough, and I was trying to see if a different bulb would fit, but this is a 10-watt bulb, and there's an 8-watt bulb, but normally a number 67 bulb is normally 8 watts, or just shy of 8 watts. So I'm not sure. Something else could be better put in there, but totally changeable in the future. And it looks like it's going to work. I mean, it's directed, instead of being the whole thing directed, it's directed on half, so it's not shining out into the back. It's shining on the light only. I'm hoping it works. I could be wrong. It could need the whole thing for all I know, because it's kind of like directly underneath it. But I'll find out if this can actually, do the whole thing. I mean, you'd have to be very careful to try to cut this all out, because you can see that the thing is all in there. But imagine trying to cut out the chrome. But, I mean, it's possible also it may have to be rotated in order to get on the thing. I was going to try to, I guess, do that, but it's pointing out into the open air. So hopefully this will work. But what an ordeal, because these threads are no good, so I got nuts and bolts here, and I got new bolts for that, but then it's a pain in the neck because they're a stupid Allen key, and then after putting these in and out, I'm like, you know what, they actually are fine. So I'm going to, one I kind of stripped with the wrong size bit, but I got a number 3 bit, and yeah, it took it out just fine. That one was in better shape. This one took a beating, but again, it fits fine because it was not the right size. I just thought maybe I'd get it out, but it was in there. So it's always something. It's always something, but God, like it's unbelievable how well this actually fits. So there's been solutions for problems, so can't be that bad. So actually, this thing was meant to be put in from underneath. You put the bolts at the top to catch them, but you see what I did now? Because once I did that, I could still have done it where it was still installed the original way, but this metal is kind of thick, and it just fits this. If I put it, I'd have to put it through both pieces of metal, and I don't think that was going to go through, and it would end up being loose. I'd rather have it tight into this one, and then I'm going to send it through the top. And see, I reversed this so the threads are on the top here. And so once I put it in, and mind you, the cutoff here is perfect with the bumper. It's like it just fits perfectly. But I'll put the screws in from underneath. Maybe you put a little anti-seize on them or something like that. So hopefully they don't rust. But I think it'll be fine. So pretty happy. So as you can see, coming through the bottom, you got the screws now from the bottom here. And this just unplugs. You can just unplug the light from here or push it up and the whole thing will come out. I think if it was trying to go through two pieces of metal, it'd be a little harder. I mean, it is going through the second piece, and it's not like it's making it loose. You know what I'm saying? Going through two from the top down, it would have been an issue. And you want it to ground. That was the other thing. As it is, we got some holes here, and this is a pretty flimsy piece that it's on as it is. So this is probably for the best. And I put a connector on there so that, if you had to change it, you just go to AutoZone and buy it. Like, it's literally the one that's in stock, and you just put this end on. So I'm going to make that work with everything. I got to drop the gas tank in order to, what do you call it, to calibrate that little Huya that I got to use the original 6-volt, probably 30 ohm float with the original, with these aftermarket gauges. So that's going to be fun. What else? I got to wire all the lights in the back here, so that's part of it. All this is part of that. It's going to come out nice. All right, so I spent the rest of the day getting almost dark, wiring the rear of the car, and this is the extra circuit. This is two extra circuits. This is like for a cigarette lighter back here with the power lead. I found these things, and that's going to be good for the reverse lights, because then if you still have to service it, you got to get it through this little hole. And I ran the wire down to the bottom for the light there. So you can see dome lights, not very bright, but first click, you see all the dashboard lights went on. I don't see these other lights. It might have unplugged. I have to take a look, or hope the key don't have to go on. Anyway, so those lights are on. So all these lights work now, and this guy works like a charm. Oops. If I back off my phone with the light, you could see it. If it was an LED, it might be a little brighter. Just like I'm probably going to do LEDs on the inside. It's pretty dark. It's not really showing me anything. But the first time, I just decided to test the starter, and it stayed engaged, and then it kept, it's too tight. It's not, retracting. And if it doesn't retract, then it'll stay running. So I thought I was trying to play with measurements, but I think I remember now when I had it on the stand, I was going to tell myself to just put power to it to see, but I didn't think I had the battery at the time. So that was a little scary, because I just put this on and then I had to run and take it off. I put a ground thing here and this ground strap to make it grounded to the body. What else? I haven't tested the electric steering, although on the floor. But there's a couple other concerning things that happened. So key is off. When I put the left signal or right signal on, as you can see, all the lights go on, but they don't blink. And it's weird because if I pull this, which I don't have the hazard thing in, if I have the light on, it'll light up. So I did something with the power there, because the hazard is supposed to be power all the time. You're supposed to be able to, work it off the brake light switch and stuff. And what's odd is that I'm hearing something click over here. So it's like it's turning on this guy. And I'm like, what the hell is that? It's turning on this thing, and this is like for the fuel pump. And I know that it said relay, and I am just lost for words right now because I thought it was supposed to be power all the time. So, because there's a relay under here that I thought it turns on. This is the horn. I thought this is the horn relay. I haven't even tested the horns. I doubt it's going to work, just because there's a couple of problems here, obviously. And what's even more funny is that when I hit the brake, if I hit the brake light, right now the rod is not connected. Hang on. So when I hit the brake light, come on, stay. So that's just it. It's brake lights work, but that thing is still clicking. And if I put the key on, the light, it goes away. Give me a second. Because something was making the hazards work. And I was like, I don't know if I had to have the key. It was the most hilarious thing. Oh, there we go. Oh, is this on though? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so right now I hear this, the flasher is clicking, and it's not turning on anything. It's just clicking. So I guess it's, oh no, it actually is. It's like the hazards are working without that thing being on, but only for the rear, not for the front, which, mind-blowing. But I guess if you put the switch on, now everything lights up, and then the fronts will work. So I have a couple of issues to work out, unfortunately, but it's something stupid. I know there's, it's in, and this is the reason why I went with this. And some people might have said, "Oh, what can we do? What if I spliced all these in and I didn't know what the fuck I was? At least I could take one apart and play with it, But I don't even have the flasher in here. The flasher's not in, and it's utilizing this flasher apparently, and I don't understand how that works. But if I turn the key off, then it stops working. Very, very odd. So that's even more odd. When I hit the brakes, that turns on. So I got to retrace my steps. I said I was going to make labels for all these wires, and I never did. It's just a lot to do right now, and maybe one day. That being said, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's something really, really stupid, but I made it so that everything can be taken apart and moved around, so I don't see it being a real big issue. So this starter needs to be returned because it will not stop getting stuck in the flywheel. I've tried everything. I've tried different bolts, and you know what? From the get-go, the bolts didn't want to fit right. And I just got regular, like the typical GM starter bolts, like the ones that came off the engine, is what I normally like to use because there's a little raised area here that really seats it. And you can tell it was binding. I had a hard time. I had to knock them out. And I bought new bolts, and they still didn't fit right. These bolts fit in. It's like it's only made for a regular bolt. Okay, so that's what I ended up doing. But I also, they were longer. I had spacers on it, so that's why it's dug in there. But it sounded great. But I'm like, okay, it needs shims, because that's what happens when it gets hung up. I got to a 1/4 inch of shims for the most part, and it still does the same thing. And it's like the relationship between this block and where the motor comes out, there's something wrong. I tried doing, some different, tests, but it's not easy. I can tell as soon as I unbolt it, or as soon as I bolt it on, it changes the angle. So something is weird with this, it sounds great, but it just doesn't undo itself. And when I loosen the bolts is when it finally does it. So you just figure it needs shims, but it actually, it's because it's changing the angle because the bolts are so loose. It was an absolute fucking nightmare. And I couldn't find the shims that I had. I bought shims for this, and I didn't end up using them. And because I did all the measurements, and then I just bought another set of shims, and I went crazy with this, and it just would not straighten out. And I jumped it to see it spin out, and this seems like it's spinning just fine. It's not like wobbly or anything like that. And I don't know what else to do. It sounds great. I really like the starter, but I don't know what's fucking wrong. I really don't. I just think that it's the relationship between the block here, unless the engine block is so fucked up. But they have a regular 3510 starter in there with no shims, This is really beneficial starter, though. It really sounds good for a lot of reasons, and I just think they got a bad batch of these blocks that are not made right or something. I don't know. Let's see what I fucked up. I really fucking done this. Where I put the wires on wrong. Other than the voltmeter, the gauges don't work, and I can't even jump it to get it to move. Particularly the fuel gauge, but I gotta try to ground the other ones. It's not looking good, motherfucker.